Hi, everybody. Welcome to this new episode of Storytap. So today, I will share with you how you can use Storytap in telling stories to the most important person in your life, which is you. How can you tell stories in your head, or more precisely, how can you use a storytelling framework to address the internal stories in your head? So let's jump right into it with the intro. Welcome back. So today, let me share my screen first. Okay. So today we will talk about Storytap and how you can use Storytap in order to tell stories, or how can you use Storytap in order to tell stories about yourself, your internal stories. So we will explore more. I have watched or learned a lot of storytelling frameworks, but I have never stumbled upon a storytelling framework that can help you address your internal, let's say, discussion that you have with yourself, and how you can basically use the same framework about telling stories to an external audience, how you can use that to tell stories about yourself, to be able to project yourself in the future, to be able to address an issue that you have in your life right now, and how you can use, let's say, those different steps in order to tell your story. Okay, let's jump right into it. As you can remember, if it's your first time here, I invite you to watch the previous episode. So the Storytap framework is something that I created. I mixed, let's say, two storytelling frameworks, the one from Dan Harmon and uh, um, let me just get the word. Rick and Morty, yes. The story circle from Dan Harmon, and also, let's say, the Therefore But storytelling framework from the South Park creator. So with those, let's say, two storytelling frameworks, I try to be kind of a cook and create this, let's say, storytelling framework, which is called Storytap. So S stands for as set the stage, but then after you need to T as trigger on it. Therefore, you have to offer a solution, but there are obstacles. So you have to reveal those obstacles. Therefore, you have to illuminate the path to go into that direction. Then, as you are going into that direction, there is a journey of transformation, and there is no story without call to action. And then, after, what is really important is what is the last impact, the lasting impact that you want to leave your audience with. Okay, so today we will talk about using a storytelling framework in order to do self reflection. Because, as I said earlier, I repeat it many times during this live, the most important thing, the first, let's say, audience in your whole life is you. So, how can you, let's say, use storytelling about your internal dialogue? So, story tap for self reflection. Okay, so as I set the stage, so basically what it means that you have to hook them instantly, but it's also to make it relevant to them in a, let's say, a classical storytelling framework. But here, what you have to do when you are talking about self-reflection, what is really important is you set the stage, you establish the context of your reflection. So you really have to define the scope. You ask yourself, is it something that I'm trying to address, which is impacting a specific time frame of my life? Is it something that when it was happening, there are some key players that were impacting me positively or negatively? Really, you have to consider also the environment in which those, let's say, events happened, and why they trigger the need for you to self-reflect about that event. And then you have really to articulate your feeling. So articulating your feeling meaning first to acknowledge your feelings. What you feel is neither good nor bad. So emotion is information. So just acknowledge those feelings, which is really important. Then after, you have to identify those recurring thoughts that you have in your mind that are coming back again and again, and how can you address those recurring thoughts. And then after, maybe you can also, when we feel some emotions, we can have a kind of physical, let's say, reactions, meaning that because of the internal emotion that we have. Maybe it's fear, then we can, let's say, I don't know, we can be frozen, for example. So all those emotions really important to acknowledge them. So in this first step of using Storytap as a self-reflection tool, the first thing is to set the stage, to establish the context of your reflection, meaning that you have really to define a clear context about what is the subject on which you want to reflect during those different steps of Storytap. This is really something that is important. So defining the scope first and then articulating your feelings and thoughts. Okay, then after, I will give, let's say, an example through, let's say, all this example, giving an example, maybe you can relate to that or not. But for example, let's take an example of you. For example, I'm thinking about, let's say, my current career situation, and maybe I say, okay, I'm doing a job which does not really fulfill my needs, or which is not in alignment with my personal values, or I don't find meaning in what I'm doing. And let's say I'm trying to consider, let's say, how I want to do a career change, but how can I use storytelling framework to be able to help me, to guide me through that career change? This is not the only way to do it. For sure, you can, let's say, reach out to coach. You can also have mentors and maybe take inspiration from other people that inspires you. So all those are really important, but the most important part is how, let's say, you can set the stage. So for example, if you take, let's say, the example of a career change, so we can reflect on what is working now, what is not working, why, what are the biggest frustration or unfulfilled desire. This is something that is really important. It's really about setting the scene for your self-reflection journey. This is really important. For example, I can give an example. Say, okay, I have been in accounting for 5 years, and while I appreciate the stability, I feel certainly stiffed by and dread going to work most days. So this is really setting the stage of your self-reflection. So I really invite you to pause the video here and maybe imagine something that is frustrating you right now, a question that you are pondering in your head, to say, okay, maybe I can use the Storytap framework in order to be able to just do this exercise. It can be fun also. Maybe you can learn something about you. So then after, the second step is trigger a need. T as trigger a need. So this is where really you present the problem and you create a sense of urgency, meaning you have to, in storytelling, you have really to say what this is the elephant in the room, and this is why we have to address the elephant right now. Having a kind of a ticking bomb, like is something that also can create a sense of urgency. So, if we are talking about using a Storytap for self-reflection, now that you have set the stage before, the next step is to say, okay, identify the core issue or desire. So you can do this in different, let's say, ways. Maybe you can reflect on the past experiences that you had and reflecting on the situations that made you understand what is your current needs. So maybe you have some needs which are deriving from past experiences that you have. Maybe also you can challenge, let's say, assumption that you have about life, about the situation in general. For example, this is something that you can do. Sometimes you have your values, and life being life, you take one decision after the other, and then you arrive at a certain situation, and then you reflect on that situation and you say, okay, where I am today is not really aligned with my values. So it's really important to connect, let's say, the need to change to maybe a misalignment with your core values. So connecting to your core values is really something that is important. And then after, you can still start to visualize outcome, meaning, okay, imagining, let's say, the ideal scenario to help you clarify your desire. So it means, okay, what really is my internal need that is unfulfilled? What is my external desire that is not met? And really, in this second stage, it's really important to say, okay, I have something that I want to change in my life, and I can use storytelling to guide me through that change. It does not mean that it's the only tool that you can use. You can use therapy. You can, as I said, I use coach. You have, let's say, be part of a community, which can also be very helpful sometimes. So being part of a community is something that is really important. So make sure at least you are not doing it alone. And this Storytap framework is here just kind of a guide. Okay, then after, the next step is, before we go to the next step, let's continue on the example that we had before. Let's say I have, let's say, set the stage that I wanted to change career, do something that is more aligned with my values. So in identifying the problem, which is driving my desire or need to change, this is really the why of behind your self-reflection. So it's really important. For example, in the example that I gave before, you can say I crave a career where I can express my creativity, work collaboratively, and feel passionate about what I do. So this is really what I'm missing today. So what can I do in order to be able to shift, to change my career and to be in a working environment which is more aligned with my values, which is kind of, I think in the Japanese, it's called your ikigai. Your ikigai is what you are good at, what the world needs, what you are paid for, and how you can, let's say, with the intersection of those circles, it is kind of your ideal area of impact in life. So this is really something that is really, really important. So we have talked about setting the stage as T and T as triggering the need. So let's move now to the next step of the Storytap, which is to offer a solution. In the storytelling framework, this is really where you introduce your big idea. You have set the stage, you have identified the issue, and then after here you offer the solution. This is more the why step. It's not like the what and how. We will come to that in the step number 5 as illuminate the path. But really here is how can I apply this when I'm talking about self-reflection. Offering a solution here is kind of when you do, for example, brainstorming, you have to diverge first before you converge. So this is really, let's say, the diverging part. This is where, for example, you start imagining some solutions, but you have always to keep in mind that all the solutions that you are talking about, they must be aligned with your values. This is really something important because the initial need is that you are doing something today which is not aligned with your values. So you have to make sure that in all the solutions that you are trying to find, those solutions must be aligned with your values. So what are the tips or ways you can explore in order to find some solutions? You can, for example, let's say, generate possibilities. This is really expanding your thinking without any limitation. Just take a pen and a paper. Sometimes being basic can be something that is really interesting. Take a pen and a paper, and then after try really to see how you can address those things. Then after, so it's really important to say, okay, here, how can I, let's say, generate some ideas? Let me just put back the laser here. Okay. One sec. Okay. Okay. Then after, what you can do also, which is can be something really interesting, is to draw inspiration from others, meaning that maybe you are facing an issue that have been solved by someone else. So maybe you can take inspiration about other people's journey and how, let's say, they solve the issue that you are facing. I think a quote recently, which kind of says, okay, which says basically that poor people learn from their mistakes and rich people learn from others' mistakes. So it's really important. What is important is not poor versus rich. What is really important there is to say, okay, I don't have to do it alone, so I really need to learn from other people's mistakes. Then after, you can really, this is the part where you draw inspiration from other people, which is really important. So this is kind of a way to find, let's say, some solution about the issue that you are having right now. And then after, you can consider different perspectives from different trusted sources. You can, let's say, you have your own perception of your situation you are struggling with. but maybe it can be interesting also to have different perspective from, let's say, a trusted friend, for instance. You can try to have a different perspective from a mentor, someone you admire. You can try to have a different perspective from a coach, from a community, to see all those people, how they, how, let's say, they, what is, let's say, the solution that they could share with you about the issue that you are having. So this is something that is really very interesting. And then after, really, you can experiment with different scenarios. So it's really about thinking, let's say, beyond your limits. Don't limit yourself in on this stage. Really try to go kind of crazy. Try really to write down all the potential solutions. And as I said earlier, what is really important is to have those solutions really aligned with your values, because you want all the solution, your potential solutions to the problem that you have, to be aligned with your values. So far, let's take back our example of, for example, me wanting to change career. What is the kind of questions that solution that I can potentially foresee? So, for example, it can be brainstorming possibility. For example, I want to explore career in design, marketing, or maybe even start my own creative business, because I'm a very creative guy. So being in finance, where it's always rigid, it's just like sales and put digits. This is not my real engineering life, even if there are some similarities. But really say, okay, in my finance activities work, my 9 to 5 today is more feeling Excel sheets or Google Sheets, because sometimes we use Google Workspace also. And but I don't feel like I'm at my best. I don't feel like it's my ikigai, or it's my let's say my way to have the biggest impact in life. I feel more like, if I am creative, it's something that I want to do, to create new things. So, for example, what are the kind of possibilities that I can have? So really, in this step of our solution, you are not really going into the details. Like in storytelling, this is where you share your big why. And then after, we will go deep dive more in, let's say, the how and the what, more in step 5. So set a stage, trigger a need, offer a solution, and the R is, okay, as you can imagine it, reveal obstacles. So this is where you acknowledge challenges, you create tension. In, let's say, your self-reflection journey, in the step of our solution, you have, let's say, brainstorm different solutions which are aligned with your values. This is where you, like in a story, you have to identify the obstacles. You have, let's say, a destination that you want to reach, and as everything in life, it will not be a smooth journey, because smooth sailing does not make skilled sailors, something like that. I don't remember the quote, but you get the idea. So it's really important here. So when identifying obstacles that you can face, maybe in your self-reflection, you have two types of obstacles. You have, let's say, internal obstacles, which are related to your internal struggles, your inner challenges, which are more, let's say, linked to your internal need or your unfulfilled need. And then after, you have external obstacles, which may be your unmet desire. So in terms of internal obstacles, for example, you can have limiting beliefs. So in the next step, you have to, let's say, once you have identified those kind of limiting beliefs, you have to dig deeper to see why you have those limiting beliefs and how you can challenge those limiting beliefs. Maybe it's fear and self-doubt that is paralyzing you to move, let's say, to your, let's say, changing, for instance, career. So it's important to say, okay, how can I manage my fears? So this is really something that is important. Maybe it's procrastination, lack of motivation, because you will always wait until you are ready, because you want everything to be perfect before you jump. But as we all know, in life, there is no perfect moment. There is only the now, and you have to act right now with what you have, where you have, and then learn by doing. So, like I'm doing right now by sharing my storytelling framework in public. So this is really important. Then after, if we come to, let's say, external obstacles, maybe it's financial constraints, meaning that, okay, if you want to change career, you will have a dip in your income, because you are in a 9 to 5 where you are receiving a steady, regular income. recently I have seen kind of a quote from Justin Welch on LinkedIn where he's saying like a monthly salary is like the biggest addiction today. So maybe I'm curious if what is your perspective on that? Do you think that having a monthly salary is the biggest, let's say, addiction today in the world we are living today? I'm curious if you can share your comments with me. So this is really something that is that could be interesting. So coming back to that, so financial constraint is something that can be an external obstacle. You have lack of support, maybe. Maybe you can feel alone and not, let's say, supported either by your family or friends about the things that you want to achieve. Maybe you are not in the right environment. Maybe uh, you people cannot understand what you want to achieve, or they don't believe in you, or they will challenge you. It's not possible. We have tried it. No one can do it, etc. And it can, let's say, cripple into you like a kind of a self doubt. So this is something that can be, let's say, an external challenge that you have. Maybe there is also some time constraints that okay, you want to change, but you don't have the capacity. You are juggling between let's say your 9 to 5, you are parents, or you are taking care of your parents, and then after you have to sleep, eat, maintain yourself, and in 24 hours you have to sleep also. So it means that you don't really have more capacity to do that. So it's kind of, to be able to tackle that, you have to do some prioritization. So this is something that is important. One of the factor also can be that you lack external skills. So if you lack external skills, maybe for example, for me today, I can say I'm not very good at doing live streams. Okay, how can I improve myself to be able to talk to the camera, even if I'm just looking at a lens here? So this is something that I have to learn. So this you can mitigate by acquiring new skills, by trying to, let's say, learn in public, build in public also, so that you can learn, have feedback, and improve yourself. So we are talking about here really in this reveal obstacles. It means that you are doing a self-reflection on a specific theme, and you have, let's say, laid the destination. And now, in like in every story, you need some obstacles, because the obstacles will create conflict, and the conflict with context will close the loop. So this is really something that is important. So in let's say self-reflection also, this is something that you can use using storytelling, and knowing that in a story you have obstacles, but also if you are like trying to do self-reflection, you have to acknowledge, because realistically you will have obstacles between where you are today and where you want to get tomorrow. So acknowledging those obstacles, it will give you, let's say, a new perspective and insight, and it will help you also identify those obstacles. And then after, in the next step that we'll move on, just after continuing on our example, you can lay down all the different steps that you can use in order to be able to get to the destination that you want to go. Okay, so reveal obstacles, for example, in a career path. You have to really be, I have to be realistic, acknowledging, let's say, that there will be obstacles if I want to change career. So that I will need to acquire a new skill, I will need to acquire new skills, maybe build a new portfolio, because in the internet, I mean, we are nobody, so we have always to prove ourselves. It's an advantage or disadvantage. On a corporate world, maybe people have biases about what you can achieve or not. But in the internet, I mean, nobody has biases. You can create content, not put your face, and let's say, people judge. That's something that's really important. And then after, maybe you have a steady income, and you are kind of in a financial, let's say, comfort zone, but trying to achieve that new thing will, let's say, make a dip in your monthly salary, for example, or maybe you are living at a certain level and you want to keep that. So you have to make trade-offs about, let's say, doing something new compared to what you have today in terms of financial freedom. So this is a kind of thing that you really have to take into account. Okay, this step in Storytap is illuminate the path. So in the step, let's say 3 of our solution, we talked about where we want to go. Then we have revealed, okay, I want to go there, but I am aware that there will be some obstacles to get there. So here is, let's say, how can I put those obstacles, address those obstacles, sorry. So in Illuminate the Path, it's really on storytelling show, don't tell. This is where you provide the how, and in self-reflection, this is where you really have to be very specific on the what and the how, meaning you have to be really very specific on what you want to do. So, for example, specificity can be translated into researching, let's say, the area that you want, let's say, to go into, to move into, for example. You have to define clear actions, so it has to be very specific. What you can do also is have a timeline, because if it is only goals which without any time constraints, for sure you will not be able to achieve them. So here really you have to define a clear strategy. You have to assign deadlines, like a project management, for example. I'm a project manager at work, so when we have things to do, we say, okay, this is where the project starts, this is where the project must end, and we have some different, let's say, rendezvous point, we say in French, or gates, where we have to go and check between, let's say, our ideal plan, where we are we deviating or not? So it's basically the same thing. You have to set milestones, and then after you have to check, compared to your baseline that you have. Okay, this will be my ideal, let's say, I want to do this in 1 year. In 6 months, you check whether or not you are getting there in 6 months or not. So this is really something that is important. And you have, as I said, now you don't have to do it alone. So this is really where maybe if you have identified, for example, what you want to do in the future, and you say, okay, I don't have to do it alone. There are infinite resources on the internet that you can use. So really, resources and support, like for example, online courses. You can have online courses. You can, let's say, seek mentorship programs, for example. You have so many, let's say, knowledge available on YouTube. And you can use artificial intelligence to do some research, for example, on the topic. You can use, for example, ChatGPT, or you can use Perplexity or DeepSeek. I think it's the new king in town. But basically, you have to do your due diligence. You don't have to do it alone. You can do it, let's say, with people. It's really important that you don't do it alone, and that you seek support, because you really want to learn from other people's mistakes, because you cannot learn just by from your own mistakes, because it's not a way to compress time. Learning from other people's mistakes is really a way to compress time. They have been on that journey, so you know the obstacle that they will face, because they have identified them in the step before. So how can you address those obstacles? What can you do to mitigate, let's say, those risks? So this is something that is really important. And also, something that is really, really important is to track your progress. I think there is a saying we say, what get measured get done. So basically, if you don't measure your progress compared to your baseline, as I said earlier, you don't know whether you are progressing or not. So it's really important. You can use, for example, journaling, for example, or if it is a physical objective, you can have goal tracking apps. For example, I have a connected watch that I use to know how many steps I have, let's say, worked each day. So really what get measured get done. So it's really important that you get there and you measure your progress. And then after, I think it's Mike Tyson who said everybody got a plan until they got punched in the face. So basically what he's saying there is, you have the plan, everything is prepared, perfect. Okay, then you start on your journey, and then after, life happens. Maybe even if you have done before the exercise of trying to identify all the obstacles and trying to find solutions to those obstacles, life will still punch you in the face. So what it means is that you really have to be locked in your target, I would say, but be flexible on the journey to get there. On the path that you should take to get there, there are billions of paths. So don't be, let's say, rigid and say, okay, I have drawn, let's say, the trajectory in a map. Whatever it costs, I must go through that path. No, you have many other alternative routes. Like, for example, if you are going to work, me, for example, when I'm going to work, I will enter my work, let's say my workplace, my GPS, and my GPS will tell me, okay, there is traffic jam here, and my GPS will redirect me in another direction, because my target is to get at work the fastest possible. But I'm not really rigid on the, let's say, on the path. I'm more focused on the I'm focused on where I want to get. But then after, we must be flexible. We must be flexible about how to get there, meaning that we have to adjust our plans, and we have to learn from setbacks. So there is a quote which say, a setback is a step back to move forward. So this is really something important to reframe, let's say, failures as learning opportunities, because in trying to do something that we have never done before, we will fail at some point. Last week, I was doing this live. Everything was prepared, but I forgot to unmute myself before going live. So I did like kind of 8 or 10 minutes without any audio. So I learned from my mistakes, and now always check that the audio is really green before going live. So this is a kind of thing, meaning that I want to share with you how to tell better stories. I know where I want to go, but then the way to get there is flexible. So learning from from my mistake is something that is really important. So if we come back to the example, for example, I'm in finance. I want to charge a career, do something like let's say a more creative work. So what we can do is to, let's say, break down let's say the fact that I want let's say to be let's say a new creative in actionable steps. So maybe the first thing could be to enroll in a graphic design course, for example, online, to enhance my graphic design skills. For example, I can learn how to better use Canva. This can be an example. Starting to build a portfolio by taking on freelance projects. So this is the way, maybe for me, to say, okay, I can start doing jobs, let's say, free of charge at the beginning, so that I can harness my skills and try and fail and learn. And then after, it gives me the opportunity to build a portfolio. So this is something that is important. Maybe also I can, as I said earlier, I don't have to do it alone. Maybe I can attend an industry event and connect with other creative professionals in the same in the same area, or maybe even on LinkedIn. I'm doing this live stream on YouTube and LinkedIn. Maybe I can okay. Let's say I am present on LinkedIn. I say that I want to change career, and then after I seek people who are in the same career where I want to go. I try to connect with them. I try to attend, let's say, LinkedIn live events, for example, like what you are doing today. So thank you very much for being here. And then after, when we are talking, let's say, about the financial aspect, maybe you can, let's say, you do kind of a savings while you are on your regular job, to do a kind of savings, so that you have enough savings to be able to live 1 year on your savings, by kind of having the same monthly salary that you had before leaving your job. And I think also some kind of things that you can do is you do like me, you do your 9 to 5, and then after, in the evenings, like I'm doing right now, you say, okay, in the evenings, I try to do my passion, or the creative things that I want to do, and I learn from it. And then after, I try to build, let's say, a small income on that. And once I have enough income from my side hustle, which is more than what I have in my 9 to 5, then I can quit. But I will not quit my 9 to 5 if I am not already generating revenues from from, let's say, my side hustle or my new creative job. So all those, let's say, financial aspects is something that also you have to address, on how you will, let's say, address those. Yes, and if you are still just joining us, we are talking about storytelling framework, which is called Storytap, and how you can use it, let's say, to do your self-reflection. Okay, let's move to the next step, which is transformation. Transformation is something that is really important when you are telling a story, because every story should have at least two ingredients. If a story doesn't have those two ingredients, nobody will listen to your story. It first need to have conflict, meaning obstacles. You have to have obstacles in your stories that you have overcome, and then conflict and transformation. Transformation meaning that before the story you were a certain individual. At the end of the story, because you have obstacles that challenge who you were before, you are transformed to a new being. So every story that you tell, if it doesn't have conflict and transformation, it's not a story. It's just nothing has changed. There is no challenge. So what is the point of a story? So it's the same when you are doing self-reflection. You have an objective that you want to reach. So this is therefore the solution on step 3. You have obstacles in your way. And then after, in the step before, you have laid down all the, let's say, steps. You have taken the big elephant in the room. You have sliced it in small digestible pieces, and you know how you will eat those pieces. And then after, you will be transformed. Hopefully, you will not become an elephant because you will exercise, but you get the idea. So really, transformation is really something important. And in self-reflection is something also that you can use. So you have really, even if you are not there yet, you have to visualize to, I will not say manifest, because manifesting things just by thinking about them is something that is okay, not really always the thing. But the most important thing is, let's say, to envision, let's say, life changes, to imagine, let's say, how the world will be once you have achieved what you want to achieve. It's something that you can visualize. Okay, this is something that is really important. Then after, it's also about recognizing personal growth. Personal growth meaning that before, let's say, you do the self-reflection, you are at a certain stage of your life, then you have identified the need that you want to address, you have brainstormed some potential solutions which are aligned with your values, you have, let's say, identified the obstacles, you have, let's say, break down the path to get there in a digestible way. So basically, it's like you are doing that journey in your head using storytelling, because you are like that character in a movie and you are building the movie yourself. And the adventure is that you are taking things from your head, because a brain is meant for creating information, not storing information. So you don't want to have information overload. So it's really important that you you sit down and you go through that transformation journey in a safe space by using storytelling, like writing that new story of that character that you want to be in the future. And the transformation is okay. I imagine that I'm there. I have change, personal growth, which is important. And then after, something that is really also important is really to connect with your emotions, because don't forget that at the beginning we said on the second step, trigger a need, meaning that you have an unmet internal need, or unfulfilled external desire, and let's say the misalignment between where you are today and the values that you have is creating emotions, and those emotions are really important. But then after, once you imagine that everything is solved, even if it will not be a walk in the park, imagine yourself in that new environment. Is to be able to visualize yourself succeeding, and to be able to feel the emotion that you have. Maybe at the beginning of this self-reflection journey, you are having fear of acting. Now that you have thought about everything, you have laid down all the steps, and you say, okay, now I can imagine being there, succeeding despite all the obstacles, because it's something that I can visualize, I can feel internally, physically, emotionally. So it's really important to embody, like in every story. A story is not just about words, it's about your character triggering emotions in your audience. So it's the same about self-reflection. So the transformation journey should elicit some emotions, positive emotions in you. So this is really something that you have to be able to envision while you are on the transformation journey in your self-reflection. So this is something that is really important to be able to visualize positive emotions. Okay, so if we go back to the example that I was giving before, so you can imagine, okay, what does your ideal, let's say, work day look like? If you are a creative, maybe you say, okay, I work from where I want. I wake up when I want. I don't have a billions of meetings that I must attend today. So all those things is something, just try to imagine. You have shifted from your 9 to 5 to your creative project, for example. Try to imagine what your ideal day would look like, to just help you imagine being there. How do you feel about yourself and your work? Maybe you now you are, let's say, ideal situation, you are a nomad. For example, me, I like to be in places where it's warm because I'm from Senegal. I don't want to be in cold spaces. For example, last week for work, I was in Germany, in Hamburg. It was very cold. Okay, I don't like it, but maybe I can say, okay, I don't need to go in places where it's very cold. Maybe I can imagine myself being a creative and being in a place where it's hot because I like it. And let's say, imagine, let's say, my day there, for example. So this is only something important to be able to visualize it, because our brain is triggered by, like, let's say, ChatGPT, by words, meaning that the way you talk to yourself or the way other people talk to you have the same, let's say, effect on your body and on your mind. So it's really important that you that you are able to visualize positive emotions, because the fact that you try to visualize those positive emotions will trigger some chemical reaction in your body. So, for example, if you try to smile, even if you are not happy, let's say, your brain will say, ah, he's smiling, so he must be happy. So let me release some endorphins to make sure that what he's thinking is aligned with his physical reaction. So this is really something that's important. So, and the example that I was giving before, for example, imagine that you are creative now, you have left your 9 to 5, you are creating your own, let's say, design agency. So this is really something that is really important. You can visualize, let's say, the satisfaction that you can feel at the end of the day, to say, okay, I have done something concrete. I did not spend my whole day in meetings, let's say, generating some PowerPoints or slides. I can have a concrete, tangible example of what I'm doing. Feeling, the pride of building a successful career in a field that you are passionate about. So really try to visualize all those emotions and to say it's really something very important, and that is really something that is very important. So I would just, let's say, I would like to share here a quote from a friend of mine. Uh, so Hugues, if you are still there, Hugues, thank you very much for being here with me. You have been here with me for a long time, and I'm happy that you are on that self-reflection journey. And Happy New Year to you too. In France, we can say Happy New Year until end of Jan. So Happy New Year to you also, Hugues. Thank you very much for being here. And let's go on the transformation journey together. This is something that we did before, during the COVID, and all the things that we did with Maker North Sud. And we collected many funds for many, let's say, countries and what we call Fab Labs in West Africa. So if really you want to see how Hugues is impacting people in France, in Europe, and also in Africa, I really encourage you to connect with Hugues Aubin. I encourage you to visit the Climate Change Lab LinkedIn page, or you can just reach out to Hugues directly. You can see the amazing energy he's putting down on top of his 9 to 5, to be able really to have a positive impact on the world. So thank you very much, as always, my friend Hugo, for being here today with me. So coming back to the Storytap framework that you are using for self-reflection, so transformation is really something that is important to be able to visualize really the transformation and to feel like you are there. Even if you are not there, your brain, it's like when you are in a dream, you can dream that you are falling or you are walking barefoot. You can feel the sensations even if it is just a dream. So let's say visualizing the transformation that you will go through on self-reflection is really something that is important. Okay, then let's move to the next step, which is called action or call to action. In let's say a normal storytelling framework, you are telling a story because you want, let's say, your audience to act on what you are saying. So it's really important that you give them a very simple, clear call to action. Call to action meaning that they have heard your story. Now they should subscribe to your newsletter. If it is a video, they should go sign in to your email list, or they should, for example, if it is you are pitching for an NGO, that they should go and, let's say, contribute. So really, a next step that is really clear and simple to act upon. So how can we, let's say, achieve this? And all the way, you have to instill urgency, because if you are telling a story, you're asking people to act, you have to normally by here, they should know why they should act now. Think again about that ticking bomb, that let's say time constraints in movies, for example, where you have a time constraint that if the hero does not, let's say, defuse the bomb before 5 minutes, like in every great American movie, the world will end. So it's really something that is important. And in self-reflection, how you can do that is really to identify the most impactful first step. This is really something that is important because action breeds momentum. That's something that's really important. So identifying the first step that you must act upon is the best call to action that you can do on your self-reflection journey. You have to make it specific and achievable, okay? Meaning that if I don't know, if for example you are self-reflecting on losing weight, maybe the first action would be must not be I will lose I don't know 10 kg in the first week of exercising or starting an activity. And then after, you have really to commit to a timeline. We come back again to having some constraints in time, because if you don't have constraints in time, it's just like wishful thinking. I will become this one day. Okay, if there is no time constraints, like everything in life, it will not happen. For example, me, I work in the aerospace industry, and when we want to develop a new aircraft, we say, okay, we will we want, let's say, to launch the aircraft in 10 years. So we are, for example, I know, we are in 2025. We say, okay, we want to launch a new aircraft in 2035. So we commit with customers. We share with them what the new aircraft that we want to build, how it will benefit them, all of that. And we say, okay, we will provide you with that aircraft in 10 years. So then after, we do a retro planning, we call it in project management, but basically it's to say, okay, I know that I have to deliver something in 10 years. So then after, all the steps that I need from today up to the next 10 years. So really having a time constraint make things, let's say, achievable, because then after, the constraint will force you to act, and action breeds momentum, as I said, as I said earlier. And then after, really you have to address any potential obstacle to taking action. So you have really to reduce the friction. If, for example, let's say I want to exercise, the way to reduce the friction is, before I go to bed, I put my shoes and my exercising outfit next to my bed, so that then after, it's really something that is easy to do. And celebrating taking actions. But you also have to be your best friend, your best cheerleader. So the way that you can, let's say, congratulate a friend because they have taken a first step to lose weight, you are like there cheering for them. You have to be your best friend also. The way you talk to your best friend must be the way you talk to yourself. The way you celebrate other people's wins must be the way you celebrate your own wins. Because once again, your internal talk, your body or your mind does not distinguish between your internal talk and the external talk that other people can have on you. So it's really important that you have a positive self-talk, let's say, not always wishful thinking, but at least a positive self-talk, so that really you can really have an impact on yourself on a positive way. So those are really very important steps. And just coming back to Hugues again, just showing here, let's say, as you can see in the chat, the the climate change page that you go, or forcecc.org, to celebrate the amazing work that he is doing, and I have been supporting him also on those activities because yeah, telling stories is also about creating an impact, and creating an impact starts with a call to action, and a call to action is really giving people the first step, like for example in the example of Hugues here, to say, okay, if you want to support my activities, bam, this is my page. But it means that he has prepared his page before. Because if, for example, today I was shouting out to Hugues, and I say, okay, but I don't have any way to direct people so that they can take action. So, okay, it's lost. It's the same, let's say, in your self-reflection. Really, taking the first action is really important, because it's like a domino effect. You take the first action, then the second one, then the third one, etc. And then after, you will have some tangible results. So shout out to you, my friend, Hugues, for being here. Okay, so the last step. So before we go to the last step, let's say talking about, let's say, my creative journey, for example. What step can I take? Yeah, make it small, achievable, that will create momentum. Sorry. So this is something that is important. And then after, really, okay. So I can say a small commitment to say, okay, I will spend 1 hour researching online graphic design courses and create a list of potential programs. A very small step that I can take, but it's something that within my control. That is not like a big thing that is too big so that I can procrastinate about it. We are almost there. So the last thing is, in every story that you are telling, P has impact. So the last impact. So you have to end on a high note. You have to create a last bonding effect with your audience. So it's the same when you are doing self-reflection. So in the journey that we have here in self-reflection, when we talked about the different steps, at the end of the self-reflection journey using storytelling, normally you should recognize some changes, because just the fact that you try to create mentally a story about who you want to become, about the issue that you are having today, this can bring you some shift in perspective on kind of you are a new person. On reflecting on all of that also, you can identify key learnings, because only the fact that doing the exercise and identifying, okay, I want to get there will be some obstacles, identifying those obstacles, and those are the solutions that I will set to get there. Imagine that you already got there, you are transformed. All those things will have positive impact in you. And then after can be also to say, okay, even if tomorrow I don't want to be a creative, but at least I have worked the path to be there, to be a creative, and maybe the learnings that I have done through the self-reflection is something that I can apply on other aspects of my life. And what is important also is keeping track of your progress. As I said earlier, keeping track of where you are. The transformation is important, but if you don't have a snapshot of before and after, it's really sometimes difficult to visualize the transformation. So journaling can be a very good exercise, so that you can, let's say, at the beginning of the reflection of your self-reflection, you have some things that you wanted to do, and then at the end you kind of shifted in perspective because you don't have to do all of this in one sitting. Sorry. So it's really important to be able to track that transformation, so you can do a kind of a before and after an after picture. Okay, so if I come back to the example of career change, journaling can be really very helpful for documenting your process, and this is also something that after maybe you can share with other people. I think I have seen a lot of things is you share the outcome and you sell the transformation. So it's really important. For example, you can say, okay, you have imagined the outcome, and then after you can set the transformation of how people can get from A to B. Uh, Maybe also your perspective on, or my perspective on work has changed. That I don't put all my eggs in the same basket of my 9 to 5, but that if something is not working properly there, maybe there are some other ways or some other places where I can thrive and have an impact. And then in this exercise, you will for sure gain some insights. You will be able to kind of virtually overcome some challenges, but it's a way also for you to learn when when you will face those challenges. At least you will be prepared and to be more equipped in order to tackle those challenges. And finally, it's always important to have those transferable skills that you can, let's say, transfer from one area to the other. So how will you apply those learnings in your future decision? So yeah, we are almost there. The next application, because we are on that journey to take storytelling framework that I have created with called Storytap and to see, let's say, different use cases or where we can apply it. So the next one within 2 weeks ish will be about how you can apply Storytap at work, for example, for pitching a project at work, etc., on a work environment. So make sure to tune in within 2 or 3 weeks, depending on, let's say, my work-life balance, because I'm a part-time creator of that. Also, to be able to see how you can apply also Storytap for work. So this is something that is really important. And as always, I will share, let's say, the deck of slides here on my Substack. So if you want really to get the slide that I shared here in my Substack, you can, let's say, follow me on Substack. And as always, I'm always eager to connect with you on LinkedIn if you want to learn more about how to tell greater stories, or if, for example, you want to apply the Storytap framework in a very specific use case that you have, you can share that with me, and we can work together to see how we can apply the Storytap framework in the story that you want to tell. Because telling stories is how we connect to people in the rise of AI, and this is really something that I think is the next, let's say, I would say the next superpower of the future in the rise of AI and all of that. To be able to come back to that human connection is something that is really, really important. So if you found value on this, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel or to connect with me on LinkedIn, and maybe just follow me also on Substack. Thank you very much for sharing this moment here with me. Thank you very much, Hugh, for being here to support and to share this transformation journey with me. And I see you next time. In the meantime, keep telling your stories, keep making your stories matter. Thank you, and see you next time.